Thank you.
Good evening, Facebook family. Welcome to another Marriage Monday with Nick and Trina Brinson. We're so happy that you'll be here with us tonight as we continue to give helpful advice to marriage couples that intend to be married, and dating couples who are interested in just learning more before they actually go down the road of marriage. We just want to thank y'all for joining us tonight. As we normally do, we just give honor to our bishop and our first lady for their continued support and allowing us to do this in the name of our church and just allow us to, which is Crown Kingdom Cultural Center, and just allowing us to continue to bring forth this message of marriage and togetherness and love and family. So we just want to thank y'all for showing up tonight.
So we hope that you all will gain strength for your marriage relationship through our conversations. We try to choose topics that we feel have been helpful to us, as well as topics that we think will be helpful to others. We don't have all the answers, but we think we have some things that may be helpful. As always, feel free to reach out and give us feedback as to topics of interest, things that you would like to have us discuss, or even issues you might, that you might be facing and would just like some input, some support on. We're here for that as well. If you don't mind, please share these videos with friends, family, anybody who might benefit from it, hearing these conversations that we're having. Because that's ultimately the goal, is we're reaching out to the body of Christ. It's not just for our church ministry, it is for the body of Christ. And so that's what our efforts tonight are motivated by. We're just doing our part within the body of Christ to build the kingdom, to make it stronger, and to build stronger families, stronger marriages, happier marriages, or not necessarily happier, but better, stronger, more peaceful marriages will yield better results for our communities and better results for our children, and for the family of God as a whole, our whole community.
So as we get started tonight, we just want to say hello to the people that have joined us tonight. I saw the Browns. They came in and said, "What's up? How we doing?" My friend Trey Smith, Way to Most. Thank you for showing up, brother, and supporting us, and supporting the ministry. And we just want to continue to thank those that continue to chime in as we get started. Normally we like to get started about 5 minutes after, to give folk time to get their devices together and to join in. So we're still in the process of talking about how communication styles, and we addressed the 4 last week of aggression, passive aggressive, and assertive. And tonight we're going to continue to talk about the assertive style, because that's the one we feel, and we've researched and see that it's the best one to use in your marriage relationship. Because the ultimate goal of marriage at the end of the day is
peace.
It's peace.
Right.
That's the ultimate goal.
Right. So the good thing about the technology and the way that we are communicating with you is that these videos are readily available. And so last week's video, which would have been what's the date? The 19th?
19th.
April 19th. So last week would have been April the 12th.
Right.
So the video that was posted for April the 12th, talking about is a little bit of a breakdown of those 4 different communication styles, or ways that we can communicate. We use all of them at some point, and there's a time and place for all 4. But within the marriage relationship, we know the goal is for the 2 to become one, in a way of peace that reflects Christ's relationship with the church. And so in order to do that, assertive communication is absolutely what's necessary to facilitate an environment and a pattern of communicating between the 2 of you that will produce something productive, and will a lot of times cause you to avoid arguments and disagreements that lead to something negative.
Right. Better understanding between the 2.
You're going to have conflict. You're going to have disagreement. Those are not something that you should shy away from. It's okay to have disagreement. The goal is for that disagreement to lead to something stronger and something better, not for it to dismantle your relationship or to cause contention. Disagreement doesn't have to lead to contention.
Right. So with that said, it's about 7 minutes after. So let's get started with the lesson tonight. And we're going to talk about assertive communication, the 3 C's to assertive communication. And the first C is confidence.
Can we just go over real quick what is assertive communication?
Oh, yeah, we can. All right. What is assertive communication? Assertive communication is the ability to express positive and negative ideas and feelings in an open and honest and direct way. It recognizes our rights and still respecting the rights of others. So that's assertive communication, meaning you get what you want, you say what you need to say in a conversation, but not, degrading the other person and the other person degrading you. You just say what needs to be said for the benefit of peace. Okay.
And that is key. A key component, a key characteristic of assertive communication is that you do not cross your spouse's boundaries. Their boundaries of respect, their boundary of allowing them to have the same platform that you have in order to air your grievances or to share your feelings or opinions about a given topic. Because when you make the interchange or interaction between the two of you such that your spouse doesn't feel safe in communicating with you, that is a problem. And that's not assertive communication. That gets almost into bullying or being aggressive. And that does not yield an environment to where both members of the marriage have that equal opportunity to share what it is they want to share with one another, to be open, honest, vulnerable. It takes that away from your spouse when you are too aggressive in your exchanges.
Right.
And so a characteristic of assertive communication is that you're honest. It is that you're direct, but you do not cross a boundary that takes things away from your spouse. You want to keep the platform available for you both to present what it is you want to say and what you want to express.
Right. All right. So let's also talk about some advantages before we get into the 3 C's, what assertiveness is. And basically, my wife went over a lot of what she said in her statements just then is a lot about what we're going to say right now. It helps us to feel good about ourselves and each other. It leads to the development of mutual respect with one another. It increases our self-esteem within the marriage relationship. It helps to achieve our goals. It minimizes hurting and alienation of each other. It reduces anxiety. It keeps you from being taken advantage of. It helps make decisions and have free choices in the life that both of us share, and express a wide range of feelings and thoughts that are respectful towards one another. So those are some advantages of having assertive communication within your marriage relationship.
And if you can look at your marriage relationship and feel that you don't always feel that you can freely say what you need to say, or that your spouse doesn't speak up and say what they need to say, then that's an indication that you can benefit from honing this skill of using assertive communication, because that's really what it boils down to. Is something you will have to practice and be intentional about. For most people, this does not come naturally to communicate this way. And like we talked about last week, how you learn to communicate as a child very often spills over into the way you communicate as an adult. And if you've never questioned the way that you go about communicating with others, then you probably are not aware if there's a need, whether or not you need to make an adjustment in that area. So we're hoping this lesson will allow you to examine yourself and to examine your style of communication, particularly with your spouse, but also with others. But especially inside of your marriage, to pay attention to how you communicate with your spouse. Do you back down every time there's a conflict and you choose not to say anything? Because that level of submissive, which is not the same as choosing to submit to your husband. That's not the same as being extremely passive and submissive in an unhealthy way. That's not an effective way to communicate in a marriage as well. If your voice is never being heard, you're missing the opportunity to be an active member within your own marriage. And very often, only thing you're sacrificing is your own happiness and your own, which is what's the opposite of an asset? It's a liability to your relationship overall, because your spouse is better off when both your voices are heard within the relationship. You don't want a relationship that's one-sided and only one person is satisfied within that relationship. Both of you are better when both voices are heard, both opinions are heard, and decisions are made with consideration for both people, both perspectives.
Right.
That has to become a way of life in the way that you communicate with one another. And so learning how to communicate assertively is a way to allow that a more natural exchange between you and your spouse, to make sure that everyone's being heard, everyone's being open and honest, and you can have the best relationship or the best level of communication between the two of you, rather than only one of you having that benefit.
And tonight we're going to give some examples of how to do that. It's something that's going to take practice.
Right.
Assertive communication is something that, like you say, you're not naturally born with, but it's something that takes practice in order to hone the skill. And not only can you use this in your marriage relationship, but you can use it in your day-to-day job, communicating with people outside of your home. And you just have the ability to create a atmosphere around you that says, I want to be peaceful. I want to get things solved. I don't like to continue to go through the same thing, the ups and downs of being aggressive and being passive. Just get it all on the table and let's just talk about it and solve the issue without being aggressive and disrespectful or bossy or just being, nonchalant and don't do anything. And you listen and act like you're agreeing with me, but you're not the whole time.
Right.
So
effective. And modeling this type of communication for your children goes a long way, because then they will grow up having been exposed to that skill and having seen it demonstrated, so that it's less of a foreign concept to them as it may be to you or to us today.
All right. And the one aspect of assertive communication is the concept of using iMessages. Using iMessages.
We're doing the C's, the 3 C's.
Well, we can get into the 3 C's. Let's introduce, I guess we can introduce the process of iMessages, which is the confidence.
Okay, I thought it was clarity.
That's confidence. When we're talking about the 3 C's of communication, it's confidence, clarity, and control. And within those, we're going to use iMessages to get how we, our statements under control, how we feel about the situation, how we understand the situation, how we perceive what's going on. So you got to let your partner know what's going on with you, and you talk to them in a way that they can understand it. So let's address the 3 C's and talk about what they are. Okay. The first C is confidence. You are composed and believe in yourself and what you're saying. You are composed is the first C is confidence. You're composed and you understand what you're trying to say. That's when you use the I messages. The I statements. My fault. I statements. So when you use the I statement, how would it come across to you?
Well, can we just clarify what an I statement is?
Mm-hmm. Well, see, let me do this. And this is where I get I messages from and I statements. When I taught this in health, and we talked about communication skill. It was called I messages. So that's where I get my I messages from. But the research we did on this particular topic, it says I statements. So that's why I keep on using them interchangeably.
Yeah, which is, it's the same thing. But the bottom line is, I statement is you being able to say or express what you feel by using a statement that starts with the word I. And not only does it start with the word I, which keeps you from blaming the other person and pointing the finger saying you know, you did this, you did that. You're talking about yourself. You are the subject of that sentence. So we're starting with an I. And so you say I, and then the next part of that statement is you state how you feel. And the last part is when you state when something happens. So it will be I feel frustrated when blank. When you come home and throw your dirty clothes all over the floor. Or I'm just trying to think of something. Or it could be I feel scared when you yell at the children. Or I feel hurt when you forget to acknowledge my birthday. So those are the whole point is that you're using those I statements. It gives you sort of a package to kind of plug in the information, and it makes it a little bit easier for you to very directly and very honestly convey that information to your spouse. And so that's what we mean when we say I statements. And it's a pretty common term or pretty common concept in the world of psychology and counseling. That's something that's very frequently taught to people, is to use those I statements to communicate clearly what you want to say. It takes some practice to do that if you're not accustomed to communicating that way. So for example, if you come home and the house is a mess and you were anticipating that it not be a mess.
Right.
And so instead of being frustrated and starting to maybe you start to yell or throw things around, or you just kind of start doing it yourself, even if you're doing it silently, but with a lot of kind of heat in your chest because you're mad and upset and angry. A way to deal with that in conversation with your spouse would be to say, I feel frustrated or I feel disappointed when I come home and the house is a mess, when there's an opportunity, for you to clean it up. Or maybe we can talk about how we can come up with a solution to alleviate that problem from continually happening. Mm-hmm. And just starting with an I statement gives your spouse very clear cut how you feel about what. And then that opens the door for some conversation about solutions. Right. So instead of you coming in and yelling like, oh, this house so nasty, I'm so frustrated, I'm sick of this, I'm sick of that, or you should have done this, y'all should have done that. Instead of that anger and frustration coming through in that way, just having that sort of what I call like a canned response. Right. It just helps give you some words that are more likely to evoke a more productive conversation.
Okay, that's good. So that's one technique that you can use to get your message across. And
we really didn't thoroughly talk about that first C, which is confidence. Okay. Now, the purpose in using those I statements is to give you confidence in communicating with your spouse, because it sort of takes away the idea that you have to, on the spot, while you're feeling that emotion, come up with what you want to say to express to your spouse. So what you can do is maybe not address it in the heat of the moment. We talk a lot about, on several of these broadcasts, we talk about planning a time for you to come together so that you're both prepared and ready to talk about whatever conflict there is. What you can do during that wait time until it's time for you to have that conversation is you can practice by yourself how you want to express the thoughts and feelings that you're having. And so that may mean writing it out. It may mean saying it out loud. Practice what I statements you want to use. How do you feel? Figure out how you feel about whatever the conflict is. and clarify what is actually bothering you. Because
Right.
sometimes we focus on things that are not really the problem. And so, hello, Mama. I saw her type in. Don't worry about the typos. So you might try to correct it. Don't worry about it. But hello. Um, so that's an opportunity for you during that downtime before the two of you get together and talk about it. Rehearse what you want to say. Fill in those I statements so that you're very clear on how you feel and on what the problem is so that you can communicate that with confidence to your spouse and not feel intimidated by how they may respond. Anticipate how they might respond.
Right.
We've been talking a lot in our church ministry. We've been learning about how to increase our strength, or how strong are you?
It's your strength. How strong is your strength?
Right. How strong is your strength? So when conflict comes, you can be prepared by using your imagination, using your spirit and mind in order to think about tomorrow today. Mm-hmm. And in the process of doing that, this is a way to facilitate it by using those I statements and also by rehearsing what you want to say and what you really want to communicate.
And I just want to interject this. Don't get so caught up in your feelings that you're not willing to come to some resolution with your statement, because, your feelings are personal to you. So mm-hmm. do not get so caught up in your feelings that you start listening to your frustration, your anger, your hate, and all that kind of stuff. So when you express your feelings, this is true. This is how you feel. But don't get so caught up in your feeling that you can't get to the next level, which is resolution, is what you're trying to do. So using those I statements. Another technique is we would like for y'all to try to use is stick to the topic at hand. You can stay in an assertive position as long as you stick to the topic. And we're going to give you an example of how to stick to the topic, even though your mate be trying to come at you in a negative way.
No,
but stick to the mate.
I'm sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
Are we talking about confidence, or have we moved to clarity?
Well, see, I think that sticking to the topic is a part of the feeling. When we talk about the clarity, you just want to get some understanding of why we're to the point.
Okay, but what we're talking about right now, I want to be clear if we're still elaborating on confidence or if we have moved on to talking about clarity.
Still talking
we're talking about staying on topic.
Right. So, okay. So we could talk about clarity, going on to clarity. So what we're talking about is staying on topic when you're talking about clarifying a situation where you're trying to get the understanding between you two, and don't deviate so much to let other things come into the conversation as you're in your discussion.
Right.
Because you can start on one subject and end up somewhere totally different from where you started. So when you're talking about clarify what's going on and stay with that one topic. Yeah.
Right.
All right. So you got anything to say about that before we actually do the example we talked about?
No, we can go ahead and do the example.
All right. So the example we discussed, and she talked about cleaning up a clean house, and we're just going to demonstrate a discussion. So here we go.
Which part? Who's staying on topic?
You're staying on topic.
Okay.
You're the one staying on topic. All right.
So you're going to start a discussion that there's a conflict, and you're starting the conversation.
Yeah, I'm bringing up a situation in the house.
Okay. And I'm going to keep you on topic.
You're going to try to stay on topic.
Keep us on topic.
Yeah. And I'm going to try to keep us off topic.
Okay.
You ready? Mm-hmm. Now, y'all follow what she's doing. She's the example of what you're supposed to do. I'm the example of what you're not supposed to do. Okay? I thought you said you were going to clean the kitchen up last night.
I did say that, and I didn't follow through, so I apologize for that. But I'll get it done.
Why you always do that? Why you tell me you're going to do something and then don't follow through?
Okay, so the kitchen was dirty.
Right.
And it's still dirty, and I'm happy to take care of that tonight. So, matter of fact, at 8 o'clock, I'll start on the kitchen, and I'll get that done tonight so that problem is behind us.
You handle that kitchen just like you handle your closet.
I appreciate your concern, but the kitchen, 8 o'clock, It'll be done. You can count on that. I'll get that done. We'll have to talk about that closet in the side of the room some other time. But I'm happy to take care of that kitchen tonight, and we can check that off and have that problem behind us.
I'm really not satisfied with this situation.
So what would you like us to do about resolving the issue with the kitchen?
It needs to be clean.
It does. And I'm going to take care of that for us tonight.
Thank you. That is how you're supposed to handle it. Even though I was still coming at her, she stayed in control
On
topic and in control of her feelings. Because when somebody come at you like that, normally what we like to do, engage it.
Get back and tell what's wrong with them.
And then it becomes this thing where there's nothing being solved.
And sometimes you can even forget what you were arguing about, what was the original topic, and nothing gets resolved.
Because your feelings hurt.
Yeah, so just deal with one issue at a time. Let that come to a close. And if they're difficult, sometimes you have to be the one to bring that level of peace to the situation, and not to get any emotions too much. So I started to kiss you because that would have got you settled down. Because what you're going to do is somebody, if you arguing somebody, you start to get physical, it makes you have to kind of let your guard down.
A little bit. It was the truth.
It would have.
It would have.
Yeah.
So that right there is a example of how you're supposed to do the assertive communication as far as having clarity in the situation. So we've talked about confidence, clarity, and then she really got into a little control right there at the end. Because I was coming and she still didn't get into her feelings, let me have my feelings, but still didn't get into her feelings. So when we're talking about control, what does control mean? Control means you're in control of the situation and you're monitoring what's happening. That means you stay within yourself and you're looking for resolution. What you got to say about that?
Well, I think it's about being focused and in control of it's like self-regulation. We use that term a lot with kids. Sometimes kids have a hard time selling how they feel. It just comes out versus learning how to wait and to just get yourself under control and wait for an appropriate time to express those feelings or to let those feelings pass. And so when you're just like we were having that discussion, which very easily could have become an argument, or it wasn't really a disagreement. It was just resolving a conflict. It was a conflict. But staying in control of emotions and not letting, even if your spouse is trying to manipulate and get you upset by saying, well, you dirty anyway, or you treat that kitchen. What'd you say? You treat the kitchen just like your side of the room. That's a little bit of a dig to try to get things to be offensive. And you can choose not to respond to that offense, but rather to focus on having a win in that situation by offering a resolution that you'll stick to and trying to kind of put a period on that conversation so that you're not spilling over into trying to defend yourself and trying to justify, well, ain't that the pot calling the kettle black? You messy too. That's why the kitchen was so messed up, because you cooked and left a mess in there. If you start to get into that back and forth and accusations, and it's not going to lead to anything productive. Nope. It's just going to cause more contention that may spill over and end up ruining the rest of the night. And so if you can focus on that one issue, stay in control of your emotions, and believe it or not, you're actually kind of modeling to your spouse a different way to interact. And when your spouse, just like anything else, when people find out something doesn't rattle you, they stop doing it. They'll stop kind of throwing those digs once they find out that it doesn't produce anything at all. Right. And so you can end up changing the behavior between the two of you by you being in control of your behavior. Of course, it's always best when both people are making the effort to communicate assertively and to be mindful not to be aggressive or passive aggressive towards one another. That's best case scenario, is both of you are working towards that actively. But you can only control you. The truth be told, you can only control you.
That's it.
And so you want to do the best you can to show up in strength in the way that you communicate within your marriage.
Okay. So with that said, that's our lesson tonight. That's our topic of discussion. I hate to call it lessons because it's like y'all coming to school at night.
But
this is our
lesson.
topic of discussion.
Yeah. Okay.
Just want to continue to thank y'all for coming in, supporting us, and just in review. Model of the 3 C's, confidence, clarity, and control. Even when you're starting to get into an argument, if you're deep into the argument, pull back and think about what you're saying. Go back and address the first point that y'all started with when the argument began. And understand that when you're assertive communication brings about peace, understanding, respect for each other in a relationship. You have any closing remarks? Okay, then. With that said, we just would like to thank y'all again for joining us. From the lady and the coach, we love y'all. Good night.